I'm your Gemini friend. I really wanted to just make a video about what natal charts are to me and why I think it's so important for us to know them. I understand that everyone has kind of their own different language when it comes to certain modalities of characterizing people's characteristics, like numerology, or there are just so many different ways of categorizing people and patterns that happen between different energies. I speak the language of astrology, and I find that there are patterns that really do correlate between all of these different modalities, but this one in particular, I feel so strongly guided to, I feel like I was so strongly guided to astrology because it just makes sense in my mind. It makes so much sense. And when I'm looking at a natal chart, I am not just looking at the signs and the aspects and the planets and everything. Like, the chart just kind of comes alive, like the person who it's representing. And of course, it's kind of a difficult guessing game type thing because there are so many different ways that you can interpret each individual placement. Things mean so many different things within what they are, but like, it's just a bunch of puzzle pieces that go together to make the most the most applicable interpretation, what seems like it would work the most. And you always have so many different suggestions, but I just absolutely love seeing natal charts come together and emphasize certain things. It's never just like each placement alone. There's always emphasis on something. There will be like, okay, their moon is in this sign, and then their moon is also aspecting the planet that rules that sign, and then it's also in the house that is emphasizing that planet that rules that sign. The same things happen over and over, and these patterns show up. So when you're looking at your own chart, you can discover so much about yourself. But I actually believe that the point of this is ultimately that our charts show us our soul's personality and the way that we would have the best life by choosing to thrive within each energy. Your natal chart gives you a full picture. You have signs on the cusp of every house. You have something to get out of every single house because of that, and you have just layers and layers and layers of wonderful things that explain entirely different parts of your psyche that you might not even be aware of. And that's the crazy thing. So I've been looking at my own natal chart for how long? Maybe like 12 years. And I get something out of it every time. Every single time I look at my natal chart, I notice something new. It's crazy. So things that initially in my exploration into astrology, I would never have even been able to comprehend, like, they come out now because it's all cycles and it's our life. We go through different cycles, and the transits will bring up different parts of us at different times when it's the right time. And it's just amazing. I actually, initially, when I was starting off studying astrology, it was so incidental that I don't remember what made me start, but I just had this interest that was coming up, and for some reason I kept needing to research things, but my main goal with this was to disprove it to myself. I'm like, I don't want this to be real. I just don't. I so desperately did not want to be interested in it. I didn't want to be able to, I think on some level I did very much actually want chart reading to be real because it's my favorite thing. But at the time, I just kept looking for more and more reasons to not believe it, and I couldn't find any. Things just kept affirming themselves, and I just kept getting more and more fascinated and wanting to look into things more. And I just ended up learning by trying not to learn. And I feel like it's always clicked so naturally within me. So it feels like something that I'm very much supposed to be doing. And the more that I lean into it, because I resisted this for a very long time, but the more I lean into it, the more everything in my life lines up and makes sense. So what I am saying here is that I encourage you to learn your own natal chart. You don't have to learn astrology. Just look at your natal chart. It's actually very simple. So long as you have your birth time. And I'm sorry, for people who do not have their time of birth, we can always look at the chart and see what we can from it, but it's just such a specific picture if you do have your birth time. And I know that there are ways of figuring it out, but I am not particularly good at guessing ascendant signs for some reason. I'm actually not. So I am not so confident in that in particular because I don't want to give information that is false and cause somebody to, and like be the reason for discrediting astrology to somebody. So I don't want to do that. But whether or not somebody believes in it does not matter to me at all. I'm going to see what I see and say what I say, and it's just how it is at this point. I truly do not care anymore. But so you have your chart. All you have to do is recognize each symbol, what planet or heavenly body it represents, and you don't have to learn everything. Just learn what you have. Look at where your sun is, look at what house it's in, and look at what sign it's under. You can just Google all of it. Be like, Gemini sun in the second house, and you'll get descriptions of it, you know? So through looking at just your basic placements, you learn, and this might be controversial, nothing has control over us. We have full control over our lives up to the point where we can actively go against any sort of like destiny that our souls wanted. Like we can do whatever we want, but our natal chart shows us the way that we will get the most success and benefit out of that area of life that the house represents. Not that the house represents, that area of life. And we can see what we're not doing according to our chart. And this is the controversial part. It's like if you're naturally behaving in this way and your chart says otherwise, your chart is a suggestion on how to best exhibit that trait. It's a suggestion, but if you follow the suggestion, you will find more success in that area. Very basically put, and I'll go so much more into this in further videos, but your sun is who you want to embody in this life. If you are not acting like your sun sign, you probably have some sort of difficult aspect to your sun or something going on within your chart that represents this. And then you can connect it to why and eventually be able to truly embody that energy that you chose, that your sun is representing who you are. If your moon is, what we're looking for is incoherence. And I know how this sounds. I know that this sounds like I'm just trying to say astrology is true and you're not. That's so false. We have all of our traits and the ways that we behave due to conditioning, due to things that we learn early on in life and take it in to be the right way of acting. Basically, all of this is to say that astrology basically shows you who you are without conditioning. It shows you who you are without all of the behaviors that you've learned that are actually holding you back from being yourself, but served a purpose. You know, when you're young, like say that take me for example, Aries rising. Like it's a lot. It's a really strong, bold energy. And I spent the majority of my life blocking that and not acting through that. I was very reserved and shy, and I had to work through that. Like that's not my natural way of being until I find it and get rid of all the stuff that's holding me back from being that way. And oh look, it actually is the way that I am most comfortable being. I don't have to go into all of that. It's just, that's the example. It's like, even for more difficult placements, using me for example, again, I have a Capricorn moon. That's like technically the worst moon. But all you have to do is learn the Capricorn moon lessons and figure out how to most healthily express that energy. There is always a positive expression of every energy. Any planet in any sign in any house, there's always going to be the most positive expression. And astrology is showing you your most positive expression for whatever it is that you're looking at. And this is just placements. I mean, aspects will give you so much of a deeper look, but to keep it simple, look at your chart and recognize the way that it is trying to guide you. Because different things will come up at different points of life, and having this guide is, to me, the most helpful thing that I could possibly imagine. I don't know that I would have figured out any of this stuff in this way if I didn't have astrology. One more personal example, I have Saturn opposite Chiron. A lot of people do. It was like this for quite a bit. But it's going to be you specifically which house is it that opposition shows up in. If you do have the opposition, there are patterns that I was living out over and over in my life that I can go back and see now, like that is related to so many things, like specifically Saturn opposite Chiron, where they are for me. Like I can see that Saturn Chiron opposition in my past, in choices that I've made, and through finally recognizing how to most positively express that and how to not let it hold me back, I've finally come to understand something massively huge for myself. This is how I work through things, and this is why your natal chart is so important. If astrology is the language that works for you. If astrology is not a natural language for you, I always offer natal chart readings. I'm actually trying to think of different, more useful types of readings that people are looking for. I do plan on adding a synastry reading, and I'm not sure what else, but I'm entirely open to suggestions. And I promise it's not just an advertisement. I'm throwing that in there at the very end because I want to help you. And I love doing this. It's literally the most fun thing for me ever. A chart in front of me and I just am flooded with information. It's hard to stop. It's usually hard for me to stop a chart reading. And the more charts that I read, the more connections that I can make and see similarities between people with the same aspects and, you know, all of that. I just love to see the pattern. This is like why I exist. I love it. And if you have reached this point in the video, I love you too. Thank you so much. I just wanted to say this. Bye.